Hello, good morning, good afternoon, welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Dominika Ermitsch. Dominika is a recent partner at EY, and is doing a lot of work in hydrogen. We've spoken before, and EY has been a long supporter of our work here at World Hydrogen Leaders, and is a diamond sponsor at the World Hydrogen Congress or World Hydrogen Week, which is fast approaching us, the 9th to the 13th of October. So a lot of excitement around World Hydrogen Week, and obviously good to catch Dominika, and thanks for joining with me.
Yeah. Hello, Nadim, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So EY obviously involved across the value chain of hydrogen, working with your clients on, I guess, a whole variety of projects. Maybe it'd be good to just catch up and frame some of the work that you're doing with your client, and yeah, just I guess catch up on some of the challenges that you're facing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, happy to do so. So I'm partner at EY within the strategy and transactions group located in the Berlin office. And I advise clients in the area of energy transition and also broader in decarbonization efforts in different industries. I also support clients on planning and setting up green infrastructure, in context of investment and financing decisions. And I work a lot in the renewable energy space, so mainly offshore wind, onshore wind, photovoltaic, but also sustainable aviation fuels. And for me, it was a natural step to arrive also in the hydrogen space, as hydrogen is, of course, necessary for the full decarbonization, especially in the applications which are hard to electrify directly, so for different industrial applications, but also for long-haul aviation and shipping. And I see the hydrogen ecosystem arising and being built up, and advise both the public side and also the private side. Having a good overview of different projects and challenges. When it comes to the challenges affecting the scaling up of the hydrogen markets, I see a couple of areas which are relevant here. So starting with the market dynamics, going through the regulatory environment, also access to finance is a big topic, and last but not least, of course, the ecosystem. And if I have a look at the market dynamics, it's obvious to everybody that, of course, low carbon hydrogen and its applications are still pretty expensive compared to other alternatives. There are no economics of scales. There are high costs in not only in the production, but also in the transport, in the storage. So it's not cost competitive, and it, of course, reduces the return on investment for investors. And there is lack of maturity and of the technology, and also what I see as a point is that there is still insufficient monetization of the avoided carbon emissions. So overall, it leads, of course, to the situation where the investors are not willing, and maybe also not able to invest in hydrogen projects without compensation mechanisms in place. When it comes to the regulatory framework, of course, the hydrogen sector depends on several of frameworks, and there is a certain level of complexity around it, because different frameworks apply across geographies, across different elements of the value chain, and there is a lack of clarity on it. And also some regulatory issues differ actually scaling up of the hydrogen economy when it comes, for example, to the EU taxonomy. which basically defines business activities which are classified as green. This framework is still under development, and of course it means that there are a lot of questions around some technical issues around the methodology, how to apply such a classification, and all this of course leads to some uncertainty. And there are also issues around the taxonomy classification and also eligibility for public funding. So yeah, this is definitely an area which has a lot of questions.
Also, just to I guess rephrase. So yeah, obviously the industry is at a stage where it needs that public support because it's uneconomical at the current stage of technology maturity, and it's very much about understanding the applicability of the legislation and understanding that detail on taxonomy to make sure that project or work will be liable for public support in order to make a project viable. And I guess there is that lack of clarity, or is it a question of just having to do and apply to try and use the legislation to understand if it's applicable? Because I guess all of the situations are quite different and complex, so it's about applying the legislation or applying for the legislation in order to make sure that you can get a project through for funding. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And of course, you need to understand that, of course, there is no harmonization of the regulatory frameworks applicable. So you need to kind of navigate between different policies across regions. And of course, it hinders implementation of cross-border hydrogen projects and the market overall. Yes, so definitely this is an issue. Yeah. And you touched upon that, funding, access to finance. There is still a lot of risk there, and of course hydrogen projects require high capital expenditures with a lot of risk, and some investors they perceive of course other options are in other investment options across the decarbonization agenda as easier or better, like for example for bioeconomy or even for renewable energy sources or electrification. And they are a step farther and they require modest capital investments. So they are perceived by investors as a preferable option. And there are also different risks perceived by investors, residual risk, I would say. So if we start with, for example, with the offtake price, the price of natural gas is of course fluctuating, and on the one hand it's the input for gray hydrogen, but it's also perceived as an alternative fuel for low carbon hydrogen. So it also affects the risk profile of hydrogen investments. And when it comes also to the offtake duration, there is a discrepancy between the buyer offtake, which is usually around 5 to 10 years. On the other hand, the economic useful life of hydrogen investments is rather 20 or 30 years. So there is the gap there, and this gap means also additional risks for investors. And also when it comes to the offtake volume, for projects to be bankable, of course, there has to be a comfortable projection of future revenues and future cash flows. However, as the market is not established yet, there is a lot of uncertainty there as well. And we touched upon technological maturity. And of course, there are technologies which are mature already. However, there is still missing a track record of projects implemented at scale. So there is a huge risk there. And yeah, with like with every new technology, you need to try it out, you need to learn from it, you need to get experience and the track record. Yeah, also when it comes to operations, when you start implementing such projects, then you see how high maintenance costs actually are, how are the other costs, how the technology is being implemented, and how cost effective it is actually. And also, what is particular for the hydrogen sector, you need to collaborate between different parties along the value chain, meaning players like equipment manufacturers, like technology providers, technical and engineering companies. And some of them are pretty small and they are not able to provide credit guarantees or credit warranties. So it's also a risk of projects being not bankable at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, that's a good point about some of the, I guess, the players in the supply side not having that scale and balance sheet already to support some of the scale of the project, certainly. Quite a lot of challenges there then in terms of your clients and you're working on. How would you classify those challenges? They're being overcome. It's a question of time. It's the type of challenges a company such as yourself, I guess, relishes because it is around, I guess, demining the complexity of what is a very sort of complex environment with lots of moving parts and innovating technology and highly complex detailed legislation. So what is your overall take of where we are and I guess the development of the industry, which is after all still very early in terms of.
Yeah, so I think it's crucial to align between different perspectives and different interests, because on the one hand you have the public side, right, investing or promoting the decarbonization efforts, implementing regulatory frameworks and policies. On the other hand, you have the private side, so the companies which are there to really implement the projects at the end of the day and to bring all the vision to life. And companies like EY are best positioned to of course navigate through this complex environment, because EY as a professional global firm, we have this global footprint. We are able to bring this 360-degree perspective on different issues, on different projects. And our experience with both the public side and the private side puts us in the position to really align the interests, to understand the interests of different parties, and to enter into a dialogue with them. And of course, the advantage of such a company as ours is that, of course, we not only advise on financial related issues, but we see it more holistically. We have technical people, we have legal people, we have also tax advisors, and we can provide also advice on growth strategies, organic or inorganic, and bringing all the expertise to the table to really move the hydrogen industry forward. This is something which EY brings in, and we support on particular projects, of course.
Yeah, it's certainly a fascinating area to play in, as it were, and a lot of challenges that need to be overcome. I guess a final sort of comment around timelines and then I guess the natural development. We're beginning to see some issues be resolved, or do you still see it's quite early still? These are simply going to take time because of their complexity. We're in the very early stages of trying to develop new value chains spanning across different geographies with new technologies and different regulatory environments. It'll just time to develop these projects compared to what are very, I guess, very simple
Mm-hmm.
renewable energy projects now are fairly simple. They produce, one product, electricity, generally into one grid, so it's just a much greater order of magnitude of complexity in terms of greenhouse and low carbon hydrogen.
Yeah, so definitely, as already mentioned, this level of complexity and dependency across different elements in the value chain is pretty high, and it's also a global market, I would say. So this is another component of the complexity across regional framework. And also, we see a lot of progress. We see that the number of investments is increasing. However, if we have a closer look at it, it's still in development, I would say, because only 10% of announced investment projects are actually committed, meaning that there is a finance behind that. And around half of announced projects entered the planning phase. So we see still that it's early stage. There are a lot of developments also on the regulatory side, but what we also see, we see a lot of support on the production side. But on the other hand, when it comes to the drivers for the usage side, demand side, we see that still there are missing some main drivers, and we see that there is a need for sector-based targets, for market targets to really drive the demand side.
Yeah, I mean, on that front, I guess we've seen one in SAF in terms of actual specific regulation has gone through for I guess non-biological SAF. Starting from 2030, small percentages, but at least that is a defined, usage case market. Would you agree? Is that one of the first compliance markets for say hydrogen-based SAF?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. This will be the beginning, and if you have a certain percentage, then of course the companies need to implement such regulation, and it will drive the demand. But basically, we need, of course, such steps at a larger scale to really scale it up, to really develop the global hydrogen market. So there is, a long way to go still. Yeah.
Excellent. Certainly, long way to go, and we look forward to working with EY on that way and helping to accelerate it as fast as possible. Dominika, it's been fascinating to talk to you again, and fascinating to get your perspective on the market and what is a very complex, dependent and moving market, but certainly it is moving. So as I said, the EY are a partner with us at World Hydrogen Week, you're a diamond sponsor, and we look forward to seeing you in action in the debates and talks coming in Rotterdam, so from 9th to 13th of October. Many thanks for taking time out to have a chat with me today.
Thank you, Nadim, and looking forward to the Congress.
Cheers, many thanks. Look forward to seeing you there.